Okay, what's good this evening? This is going to be a video review of and discussion of one of my top 3 favorite Transformers of all time, and I'm not talking about just G1 or Masterpiece or third party. I'm talking about of all time period. This is the Decepticon known as Overlord, and he is not my favorite. I need to state this disclaimer right off the bat. He is not my favorite because of IDW. I consider the Overlord character from G1 distinctly separate from the presentation in IDW. They're totally different characters. The only thing that they share in common is their name and some general similarities in their appearance. I love this character and this toy because, like I said in my Gotch and Rye video, for me it's all about playability, and G1 Overlord has tons of playability. He is a triple changer duocon power master, dual power master, and a city bot, which is one of his 3 modes. So he's absolutely fantastic. And right off the bat, we start with the box, which I put in the background. Sorry for that little jarring movement. And I have to apologize if my videos, aren't the best quality or the best cinematography. I haven't been doing this in a really long time, and I just wanted to get right into it. So the box is in rough shape, as you can see in the camera. It's kind of taped. I bought it for about $120 maybe 9 years ago in 2009. I bought it off of eBay. This is obviously the European version. The box is in really rough shape, but I was pleased that at least it came with the box. The packaging is not as colorful as the Japanese version, in my opinion. Well, maybe it is. But you see you have the product photos on the moon surface and artwork in the back of Overlord and what these are called the motivators. Everyone knows the blurb here at the side, which talks about how he's an interdimensional warrior. But one of the things I really like is a description. A legend by nature of his existence, he emerges as a new and deadly Decepticon anti-hero. So on and so forth. A tank to steamroll a path ahead, and a jet for CSAC duty, carrier, spy, and air combatant. The colossal body houses an arms manufacturing plant producing a multitude of sophisticated super weapons. The ultimate conversion is to Battle Station Complex, a strategic support base ready for the arrival of the Decepticon fleet, ready for all-out war. That is badass. We're going to put the box away because it's in crap condition. But as I was saying, that is badass. And right when you open the box, you get greeted by these 2 massive alt modes, and the wings folded here, which is the Mega Jets, which is the SR-71, piloted by Godmaster Mega. We have the Giga Tank, which is piloted by Giga, which appears to be an M1 Abrams. The Giga Tank utilizes a barrel, or the accessories it utilizes are a barrel and the kind of the missile pod or communications array. I don't know too much about military vehicles that attaches to the tank. Really like these alt modes. They are large. They are very imposing when placed on display next to some other G1 vehicles. Let's take a look first at the Giga Tank. So the Giga Tank is the lower body of Overlord, but In the alt mode, it functions as the ground assault vehicle. The sculpt of the tank is nice. So you have sculpted treads here on the side, which don't work. The parts count would be too high and too expensive. Instead, how it rolls are these wheels at the bottom. And I just wanted to call to attention, I don't know if you can see it. So the trademark at the bottom here, this reads copyright 1988 Hasbro Inc., copyright Takara 1988, and then this Overlord was made in Thailand. What is interesting is that Overlord never made it here to the US. He only made it to Europe, and I don't know what the decisions for that were, but it is interesting to note that there is a Hasbro copyright on the mold, even though it was only released in Europe, obviously through Hasbro Europe, but I still think that was something interesting. Sorry for that jitter again. So the Giga Tank is, the turret is molded into the body of the tank, primarily because of the functionality needed for the base mode. So unfortunately, the barrel can move up and down. The turret cannot, and I wish I had my Blitzwing out and my Warpath out, but they're both in storage. Most of my Transformers are in storage, but to give you a size comparison, because everyone has this, here's G1 Optimus Prime, and you can see that the Giga Tank is quite large, actually. It's probably among the largest land-based alt modes in the G1 toy line. When you're considering only land vehicles, it's up there. I can't really think of anything that would be larger than this, right? If you're taking out base modes, such as Omega Supreme's tank, I think this is fairly large as terms of as far as alt modes for real world vehicles go in the Transformers space. But anyway, so the Giga Tank has its limitations, but the limitations can be forgiven, in my opinion, because of the required functionality for the tank to not only form the legs and lower body of Overlord, but also additional sections in the base mode. So it's understandable that the turret doesn't rotate. It's unfortunate, however, at least the barrel does move. And of course, you have Giga here inside, acting as the pilot. And nice sculpted detail here on the side of the turrets. This is a nice blend in here in the back. These are actually going to be Overlord's feet. And again, I spoke about the treads. They don't work. That would have been cool, but in terms of what you're getting, this is a nice sculpt. It's large and it's heavy, and at least it rolls, which brings us to the Mega Jet, the SR-71, probably one of the more distinctive Decepticon planes. Again, unfortunately, I don't have my Starscream or Skywarp or Thundercracker, but this is a large jet as, again, we move G1 Optimus Prime into the picture. In fact, I'll take his trailer and we can see that the Mega Jet, we're going to trade spots. The Mega Jet is longer than Optimus Prime with trailer, which again is fairly impressive for what you're buying in this set of figures. So you have Mega in the canopy here, or the cockpit. my Overlord is, while it's used, obviously, but the condition's fairly good. The plastic hasn't yellowed. Some of these fins here in the back, they're a little bit flimsy. So we're going to take Optimus Prime away. And the profile of the Mega Jet is not slim. On the underneath, you can tell that there's another purpose meant. I always like to flip Overlord's head around. It's not in the instructions, but it's a nice step. These are the attachment points for the legs. They also double as the non-retractable landing gear. This is not the landing gear for the jet mode, or for the Mega Jet. It's all built here into the main body. So be sure to have this folded up when you're putting it on display. But together, the two alt modes are really impressive. They're among the largest, as I said, of all of the Decepticon G1 alt modes when you're talking about vehicles only, which is cool. It's, you know, you're getting a lot of playability for this. It's not hard to imagine the Mega Jet by itself leading that said Decepticon fleet, just because of its sheer presence. You know, out of all the other G1 planes, the G1 Decepticon planes, the Mega Jet is, I would say, it's the biggest. If you don't include Skystalker, I don't remember how big Skystalker is, or if you don't include Skyquake, both of which I no longer have because I put them on for sale quite some time ago. But the Mega Jet is very impressive for its size. So now, going from the Mega Jet and the Giga Tank into base mode. So we're going to take out Mega, and we're going to flip the nose cones up. And this is going to be a really cool transformation, I think. Take the base modes up, the fins up, and we're going to press the Powermaster gimmick to free movement of the arms. And we're going to flip. We're going to flip this assembly over, and we're going to rotate the arms up. And a really cool feature is we need the hands for the base mode, which automatically outdoes Metroplex, Generations Metroplex, because the hands are just kind of staying there. Then we unfold this, and I'm going to do it now in a really cool transformation scheme. We rotate the SR-71 cockpit, and we get a nice tower, the main tower for the base. We're going to take the Giga Tank and we're going to split it apart. So we're going to take this radar dish out. Giga comes out as well. Okay, so one of the things I forgot to discuss, obviously, is the whole crux of the Powermaster gimmick, which is transformation is unlocked only when you place the Powermaster engine into the appropriate slot. Okay, so we're going to forget that because putting him inside is hard. So we're going to do the cheat method, which is to press the buttons here, which allows us to separate the turret and we're just going to split it apart. So now we're going to take this and flip it open. It's the other way around. Yeah, we're going to take this and flip it open, and we're going to set it off to the side. And we're going to have to bring Overlord back a little bit. So we're going to set it off to the side. We're going to do the same with this. We're going to flip this. So this is cool. This whole transform mechanism of the tank. So you see that this is why the turret can't rotate. It's because it's fixed. So you should be able to transform into base mode. So they sacrificed the turret functionality for making the base mode look more impressive, which, you know, I don't mind, actually. So I'm going to take the repair arm, and we're just going to extend it and extend this. And then since I have it here, I'm going to take the gun emplacement accessory and tab it in. So place this off to the side. I'm going to take the other accessory from the Abrams tank and put it over here, fold out this ramp, take out this gun, and set it over here. And then the ramps, you want the fat end to be at the topmost part. And we're going to attach, well, not attach, we're just going to rest the ramp there. So we're going to rest it like thus. And lastly, the front ramp gets placed there. Sorry, not lastly, I lied. And then we're going to have the radar dishes. Well, I usually like having them flipped. But this is Overlord's base mode. And as I keep repeating myself in the Godmaster video, I love base modes. This is not yet complete. So we're going to put the gun over here. I love base modes, and this being primarily first a robot that has dual power masters, that splits into two vehicles, and also has a base mode, it is absolutely fantastic. So you see Giga's car, and Mega we're going to put into her command center. Replace the ramp. And we have the base mode, which again takes up a lot of space. It's really impressive. There goes Giga. I'm not going to try and force the Godmasters into their, you know, into the power slots in their vehicles and stuff, because they're old figures and they're a little bit loose. But I want to show you in a little bit a comparison between Overlord and the Power Master Optimus Prime base mode, because they, in the Masterforce cartoon, the Super Jinrai robot, his counterpart in the Decepticons was Overlord, and this is something that we did not know back in 1988 as kids when Power Master Optimus Prime came out here in the US. We didn't know that he actually had an adversary, which always bothered me, you know, as a kid. When I was looking at the catalog, I thought, where is Optimus Prime's adversary? It may have been Double Dealer. They may have been trying to portray as Double Dealer. But it just wasn't convincing that you had this powered up, beefy, ready for war Optimus Prime, but the Decepticons had a mercenary to counter him with. So we didn't know that Overlord existed, and this is partially the reason why I think he's so awesome. It's one of the best Decepticon bases, second only to my favorite Trypticon, in my opinion. And let me just raise that a little bit there. One of the things that I love about this is that the profile of the base is nice and symmetrical, and you can make an argument that you wouldn't know that this base mode is comprised of an SR-71 plane and an M1 Abrams tank. So yeah, you could say that this part over here, which is the nose of the plane, is a little bit obvious, but at the same time, if you could just retract these stabilizers or hide them or whatever, this silhouette of the nose of the SR-71 could double as a tower. I mean, it is a tower here, but it could double as a silhouette of like a pointed, like geometric tower. Sharp features and whatnot, you know, which are characteristic of Decepticon architecture, for lack of a better term. I don't know, maybe I just pulled that out of my ass, but it is something that I wanted to highlight. The weakest point, as everyone knows, are the ramps. This is the only base, if you're considering Metroplex, Trypticon, Scorponok, Fortress Maximus, Omega Supreme, Power Master Optimus Prime, and now Overlord. This is the only base where the ramps are, they just come out and they're not fixed. It is a weak point, and to be fair, it is a massive weak point, because at least they could have engineered a way to kind of fix the ramps into place as opposed to just placing them there. And, you know, all it takes is a little bit of pressure. You cannot move this base mode at all, otherwise the whole thing crumbles. And again, it's due to the ramps, but the ramps also lend it a lot of presence. The base mode is large. It is fairly spread out along my table here. If I just get my tape measure, end to end, it is over 2 feet long. It is just over 25 inches in length, which is about 64 centimeters. Probably the total width is about 65 centimeters. So that's over 2 feet long from a robot that's about like 13, 14, 15 inches tall. I don't remember what I said just a little bit ago. So again, the ramps give it a lot of presence, and I just wanted to compare, because I love comparing, Overlord's base mode to Power Master Optimus Prime's, and I'm gonna get him here into the frame. And just look how much, you know, I'm gonna move my chair back. Look how much more space Overlord's base mode takes up, which again is due to the ramps, because the ramps, they create a lot of that volume in between the tank platforms. But look how much larger overall the base mode is compared to Power Master Optimus Prime. And there I go, moving around stuff. You can see the profile and the volume that in space that the base mode occupies is much larger. I'm struggling to kind of fit the two of them into this frame, but I think it is an appropriate comparison when you consider that Overlord is a larger character in terms of stature than Power Master Optimus Prime, or Super Jinrai, as I should say. And I don't really have a better place to put him aside from here. So again, even the base mode of Overlord is overwhelmingly superior to Super Jinrai's. Well, maybe not overwhelming. It depends on what you like. If you want all-in-one functionality, then Super Jinrai's is better. But as Overlord is my favorite G1 Decepticon toy, and probably my favorite Decepticon of all time, I'm going to have to say that his base mode is so, so cool. And the presentation is awesome. So we're going to put away the Power Master Optimus Prime base mode to the side, and we're going to go back to Overlord. The base has some gimmicks, the foremost of which is this flip out gun. Well, I wouldn't say foremost, but this flip out gun here, I don't know if you can see it. That's a little bit of a better angle. The flip out gun, you can see Mega is in her control tower, and I think in the instructions, this is supposed to be Giga's car that he rides around, because it has a name. I can't remember what it is. But anyway, so it just kind of comes down the ramp and whatever. The left side of the pod is a gun emplacement with the missile array. Overlord's gun forms like a nice tower in the back. On the other side, I have it pointing up, but that's the repair arm with another gun emplacement turret, and then we have some ramps. And again, I think the presentation is really cool because you don't know that this is the body of the SR-71. You don't know that these are hands because they're very cleverly hidden by the radar dishes. I mean, yeah, you know it's the hands from the transformation process, but if you just saw this for the first time without looking at the robot, you wouldn't know that these are the arms. And I wanted to call to attention the nice detailing here, which gives it kind of a feel of windows in these towers. So that nice sculpted detail over here with like the electronic vents or whatever, the air vents or something, and then you have kind of like the window moldings over here. The same thing on the other arm or tower, as I should supposedly call it. The nice windows and the vents. And kind of overall like a molded feel that there are structures and less arms. So that really makes the presentation overall pretty convincing, I would say. I mean, you know, it's just so cool. It's symmetrical. It has kind of like the Decepticon geometry, if you know what I'm saying, where things are sharp and angular and, you know, not that not as egalitarian as the Autobot bases. So again, the base mode of Overlord is really, really cool. I wish there was a way to kind of connect the G1 Decepticon bases all together. I might try and tinker with it if I can find the right camera angles, and the right presentation. I might have to do it because I love base modes. I know that the Titan Returns Triptychon can specifically connect to the Titan Returns Overlord in base mode. I am waiting for my Titans Return Overlord. I also got the Legends Overlord. I ordered them all at once. I know I'm kind of late to the game, but c'est la vie. So this is the Overlord base mode. Okay, so Super Jinrai is gone. He's been banished. Overlord has won. And now we're going to transform to robot mode. So once we take these ramps away, the base mode starts to dissolve. But again, the weakest parts of the base mode is actually one of its strong points because the ramps really lend a feel of expanse. So we're going to fold back up the tank, kind of back into tank mode. I'm always struggling with my focus, so please bear with me. And you see I just kind of did that with one hand. We're going to have the tank parts off to the side. Focus back on the Mega Jet. We're going to take Giga out of his car. We're going to put the car out to the side. We're going to leave him here. take out these accessories. We have the hands already extended, so we're going to leave them as such. Fold down the assembly. Let's take Mega out. Put it back. Rotate this all the way. Now we're going to take this whole plain assembly, or front part of the SR-71, and we're just going to pry it off. We're going to prepare Overlord. So now we're going to take the tank bits, or the tank halves, and we're going to connect them to form Overlord's lower body. Oops. Whew. Extend his feet. Now he doesn't look all that impressive just yet because we need to add the shin guards. So again, the fat piece of the shin guard, you want it facing upwards. Plug it into place. Same over here. And now we're going to move to the upper body. And this is called the Mega Jet, or I'm sorry, the Mega Child. So we're going to plug it into the side to form a really cool kind of drone attack vehicle slash shield. And we're going to transform Mega. We have Giga ready to go. We're going to open the panel doors. And once we put them in, we're going to see the Power Master gimmick, or the Godmaster gimmick, which is the flip out gun. And then we're going to rotate the head around. And then Overlord's gun. And last but not least, flip these back up. And now we have G1 Overlord in his robot form. I'm missing his missile, that goes at the tip of his gun. Excuse me, the missile can actually be pilfered from the Metroplex missile, which is almost exactly the same missile. It's almost exactly the same length. I don't have the Metroplex missile. It's somewhere in my accessory boxes. So for all intents and purposes, this is the completed Overlord form. This toy is very big for a Decepticon. It's actually well, you know what? Before I get to talking about the height of this toy, I want to reiterate what makes the character of G1 Overlord, what makes him stand out to me. So before IDW Overlord was introduced, and maybe a lot of people here in the US know Overlord through the IDW comics, but the character in IDW visually is based off of this G1, who made his debut in the Super God Masterforce cartoon, which was the cartoon that came after Headmasters in Japan. So in Super God Masterforce, Overlord is the Decepticon leader. He's actually kind of a field commander and personally takes charge in battle, which is quite a contrast to Megatron, who often took charge in battle only to call retreat. It is also a change from Galvatron because Overlord is not crazy. It is also a change from Zarek / Lord Zarek, aka Scorponok, because Overlord doesn't scheme in the shadows as much. He is more of a leader type to take personal command in the field and to take action. So this was pretty evident when Super Jinrai was proving to be superior to all of the Decepticon forces at his disposal. In the Masterforce cartoon, the first time we actually see the Overlord robot is a desert battle where he utterly overwhelms Super Jinrai. It is the worst beatdown by a Decepticon leader on an Autobot leader. I would say even including Transformers the movie, because there were too many extenuating circumstances in Megatron and Prime's duel. Talking about, you know, Hot Rod interfering and Megatron able to seize the moment. Prime had actually had him beat, but the duel between Overlord and Super Jinrai in the desert, Overlord was the clear superior and he dominated that battle, which is something that we had never seen before in terms of Optimus Prime versus Megatron, in terms of Galvatron versus Rodimus Prime, in terms of Fortress Maximus versus Lord Zarek or Mega Zarek or Scorponok. They were all pretty evenly matched at some point. But Overlord versus Super Jinrai was a clear domination on Overlord's part, and there was no question who was the superior. So coming back to the toy, the stature of this toy demonstrates that it's the tallest Decepticon toy ever produced. The tallest G1 Decepticon toy ever produced, if you go by certain measures. So I'm going to display the previous Decepticon leader, which was Scorponok, or Mega Zarek. I'm going to get them side by side into frame, and you can see that Overlord is actually comfortably taller when you look at the shoulders. And if we measure from the top of the crest on Mega Zarek's helmet, Scorponok's helmet, they measure about 13 3/4 inches, whereas Overlord's head measures about the same. But if you're looking at it from the standpoint of shoulder height, the Overlord is clearly a taller robot. He is eclipsed, I think, in absolute height by Black Zarek, but that's only because of Black Zarek's helmet. And so depending on your criteria of who is taller, obviously I made the declaration that Overlord is the tallest, so my criteria is to the top of the shoulders, and then whatever head ornamentation gives the two Scorponoks an advantage, that's something that I think is less of an import than the actual stature of the body in total. Anyway, so that was pretty long-winded. Overlord next to God Jinrai, which is a money shot. I mean, this is Super Jinrai with the God Bomber upgrade to form God Jinrai, as I showed in my my previous video review. Look how overmatched he appears, even with the upgrades, against Overlord. It is a bit surprising, actually, if you consider that these two are enemies in the cartoon. If you had never seen Masterforce, you first got the Power Master Optimus Prime toy. Then maybe later on, if you were able to get one of the reissues of some kind, you got the Apex armor, or if you were like me, you got the reissue with the God Jinrai gift set. But if you didn't know any better, and if you weren't aware of the Japanese cartoon Masterforce, you didn't know who it's accurate. You didn't know who Power Master Optimus Prime with the trailer and with the Apex armor upgrades, you didn't know who his counterpart was on the Decepticon side. Now, enter Overlord, never released here in the US. Now we know who he's fighting, so to speak. The leader of the Decepticons in Transformers Super God Masterforce. A very powerful fighting presence, a very powerful Decepticon, and a Decepticon known actually for his honor in terms of promising to carry things through. And then at the very end of Masterforce, in case people want to see it, I won't spoil it, but a choice has to be made, and Overlord makes a certain choice. And again, it speaks to his code of honor, sort of like Dinobot from Beast Wars. So that is why I like this Overlord toy. It's going back to my previous statement from my other review. The playability of this toy is very, very high. It's obviously limited articulation. I don't even need to go through it. Just the arms rotate. The head has good articulation. The lower body actually has pretty decent articulation when you consider that Gajin Rai, a smaller figure, does not have forward and back leg swivel. If we're going to talk about weaknesses about this sculpt, the head sculpt looks a little bit Autobot generic. It looks a little too friendly, if I would say so. The cartoon renders this with a much narrower head and kind of more smaller but more focused eyes. I'm going to raise my tripod a little. So that, I think, is the main drawback from a sculpt perspective. But overall, you get a base mode, which is large and sprawling. It's more than 14 inches across, or whatever it was before. You get 2 alt modes that look fantastic. You have an SR-71. You have a tank. The tank, while limited in its features, unfortunately doesn't have a rotating turret. The barrel can pivot up and down, but the SR-71 is probably the largest G1 Decepticon plane. The tank is probably the largest G1 land vehicle on the Decepticon side, and the robot mode is, by criteria of measuring to the top of the shoulders, the tallest G1 Decepticon of all. This is my favorite Decepticon. So just to sum up my thoughts about Overlord, I am super enthusiastic about this toy. So the accessories that he comes with, I don't know if I highlighted them all in one shot. Obviously the gun, and he comes with 2 radar dishes for base mode. They have a nice molded sculpt, and it is out of focus. Okay, so there. This is radar dish 1. Put it back. I probably should have showcased this when I was doing the base mode, but I was in a rush. This is radar dish 2. The missile emplacement, or the missile pod that you can attach on the Giga Tank, and optionally you can replace it with this. But this also is supposed to go on the Mega Jet. So in base mode, it utilizes all 4 accessories. The ramp is only utilized in base mode. The car is only utilized in base mode. The tank barrel is only utilized with the Giga Tank. Out of all the accessories, they can all be integrated, but only in base mode, save for one, which is the tank barrel. So unfortunately, there's no way to integrate all of them. Going back to the figure in general, do I recommend this? I highly, highly recommend this if you are a G1 collector. In fact, I think I would go so far as to say that Overlord is actually mandatory if you collect both Autobots and Decepticons, especially if you have a Power Master Optimus Prime in your collection, or if you have the Power Master Optimus Prime with Apex armor or the Gajin Rai gift set. I'm going to go out and declare that if you don't have Overlord, it's pretty much mandatory that you can get him if you can afford it, because I know the prices have skyrocketed thanks to the comic. I managed to get this. I don't know if I mentioned it at the top of the review, but I managed to get this for about $100 on eBay, maybe about 9 or 8 years ago. So that was before his popularity exploded with the comics. But if you like figures kind of like Omega Supreme, the Overlord is not as much of a parts former. If you like figures like Omega Supreme who have a base mode, who have interesting alt modes, well, maybe the base mode and the alt mode are the same for Omega Supreme, who have a robot, a super robot that combines a large robot. Overlord is also a Decepticon leader, which is why I consider him to be mandatory for, I'm not going to say for everyone's collection, but if you're serious enough about collecting G1 Transformers, then I do consider him mandatory because he is a Decepticon leader that follows after Scorponok, who followed after Galvatron, who followed after Megatron. He is the epitome of what I think a playable and high bang for your dollar Transformer toy should be, and I highly recommend him if you are able to splurge the cash. There are very few figures in G1 Transformers that I would consider to be more worthwhile than Overlord. And again, that comes down to your personal preference as a character. So do I recommend him? Absolutely yes. Should you spend the time to hunt one down? If you have the money and if you're interested in the character and you like G1 toys and you can appreciate the toys for what they're trying to accomplish and not from an articulation standpoint, then absolutely you must get him. So that wraps up my review. This is my favorite G1 Decepticon of all time, probably my favorite Decepticon of all time. Super Godmaster, Super God Masterforce, G1 Overlord. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I know it's a long review. I just wanted to reiterate my appreciation for the character and the toy. So thanks.